It was 11 o'clock at night when the staff sent the MV plan for the title track, Time, in Kiro's new album. The MV used time as a thread to connect the major events since Kiro's debut. Looking through the photos and videos in the plan, Saven felt nostalgic. When Saven first met Kiro, he had already become so successful that even describing him as a superstar was a little conservative. The company spent a lot of money to reel in the Kiro cash cow, and once the contract was signed, Saven was very nervous about meeting the young, international superstar. Over the years, Kiro had lived up to all expectations. He not only made huge profits commercially, but also won many mainstream awards. On several occasions, the company had tried to hand newly signed talent over to Saven, hoping he could replicate Kiro's success, but they were all refused by Saven. How could Kiro's success be replicated? He was popular not only because of his outstanding appearance and extraordinary talent, but also because of his irresistible charm, which Saven was never able to explain. He had met a lot of stars, some of whom were stunning, others had excellent dispositions, and still others had amazing personalities despite somewhat ordinary looks. In any case, they all had marketable attributes, and it was Saven's job to pinpoint and refine their best qualities. But Kiro was different. He couldn't put his finger on exactly what it was that made Kiro so special. He was good at everything, and a star who is merely good at everything usually doesn't sell. Yet, when it came to Kiro's success, the rules just didn't apply. But he was Kiro after all, so in a strange way, it all made sense. There was an incident that had scarred Saven for a long time. Kiro almost had a major accident while filming a movie. It was midsummer, more than 40 degrees, and everyone on set was sweaty and tired. Kiro's shoot was scheduled for 2 p.m. There was only one line in the script, and Kiro was supposed to jump from a 3-story building which would then explode. The director was worried there would be an accident, so he had arranged a stand-in for him in advance. But Kiro insisted on performing the stunt himself, and no one could stop him. In the end, anything that could go wrong did go wrong. Maybe there was a miscommunication, or maybe the prop man was overwhelmed by the agonizingly hot day. Whatever the reason, the button to trigger the explosion was pressed a few seconds earlier than scheduled. Before the crew could react, the building exploded with a bang. Watching the burning flames in front of him, Saven's mind went blank. The whole set fell into a dead silence, and every second seemed to stretch into a century. Kiro! How is Kiro? While everyone was in a panic, Saven just stood there, countless thoughts passing through his mind. He thought about the country's best plastic surgery hospital, the insurance he bought for Kiro half a year ago, and about who should be notified to sign for his operation in the ambulance later. Just then, a figure stood up from the cushion on the ground, his golden hair shining brightly in the sun. He blinked innocently at the crew who swarmed around him, checking him for injuries. Then he ran to the director, smiling, and asked if the take was okay. Saven felt his heartbeat accelerating. He ran to Kiro and checked him from top to bottom. It took a long time for the director to get over the shock and find the clip of the explosion. In the clip, just as the building exploded, Kiro took a step back to the window, performed a somersault, and swiftly landed on the ground. He moved precisely and gracefully, landing in the exact position the director had instructed. How did he manage that? The martial arts action director was amazed. The producer immediately gathered a group of reporters, wanting to make this incident a headline.
Did I look cool just now, sweet patootie?
Kiro laughed thoughtlessly, but Saven was traumatized. He immediately contacted the insurance company and added 2 zeros to Kiro's cover. Before the shoot was over, Saven forcefully took Kiro to the hospital to get an X-ray. He was tremendously relieved by the confirmation that Kiro was safe and sound. He then took him to a restaurant for a grand meal of pizza, steak, and ice cream, allowing him to eat as much as he wanted. When the movie was released, Savin felt emotional when watching that terrifying scene. It's difficult to understand young people. When Kiro had told Savin that he wanted to retire, Savin had just received a new product endorsement contract from an advertising company. He sipped his coffee and glanced up at Kiro sitting on the sofa.
Did you lose a game?
Kiro didn't utter a word for a long time, so he asked again.
Are you refusing to appear in public because you've gained weight? You're always sneaking out for a meal.
Savin opened a drawer and tossed something on the sofa. Kiro turned to look at the box of instant diet milkshake. Savin laughed.
I've had 2 boxes. The effect is not bad. Even my abs are showing. Would you like to try?
He got up, walked to Kiro, and patted him on the shoulder.
Are you in a bad mood? I have arranged a little too much work for you recently. How about a vacation?
Without lifting his eyes, Kiro shook his head. Savin hadn't seen Kiro like this for a long time, so he could only guess at what was bothering him.
Did you have a fight with that girl?
Kiro stayed silent for a while, then took out a bank card from his pocket and put it on the coffee table. Savin was very familiar with this card. It was Kiro's salary card, which contained all his money.
The money on the card should be enough to pay the penalty.
Kiro's voice was very soft, but to Savin, it sounded louder than a jackhammer. Is he serious?
What do you mean?
For the first time, Savin raised his voice at Kiro.
How can you quit your job just because you're in a bad mood? Even kids aren't as headstrong as you are.
Kiro lowered his head in silence. He seemed a little disheartened. Savin was reflecting on whether he was being too harsh and was deciding if he should comfort him when he heard Kiro's determined voice.
This is the last time I'll be headstrong. I'm sorry.
Do you really have to do this?
Savin thought of various reasons.
Is another company poaching you? I can probably guess who it is. Hold on first. You have to trust me. If you think the company's cut is unreasonable, just let me know. I will try my best to fight for your interests.
Kiro just kept shaking his head and refused to talk.
Just tell me straight if something happened. I'm your agent. I can help you solve any problem. After all, you are young, and you can be easily flustered and confused when you encounter problems. But not me.
Savin rubbed Kiro's blonde hair, still trying to persuade him.
If you leave, I will lose my job. You know I haven't paid off my mortgage.
Once again, Kiro said sorry and remained silent. Savin couldn't control his frustration and almost jumped out of his trousers. Emotional, he accidentally knocked over the cups on the coffee table. The noise was overheard by everyone outside the office, so when Kiro left with his head low, the whole company rumored that he had a big fight with Savin. That night, Savin didn't close his eyes at all. He kept wondering if he had done something wrong and started thinking that he had never done anything right. He had been a cautious and conscientious agent, but an incompetent one. Frankly speaking, he knew that Kiro had many secrets. As a superstar who was always complaining about being tired and wanting to sleep, he rarely stayed at home during vacation. No one knew what he was up to. He would just disappear. No one could find him or get through to him. He would come back naturally when work started up. He was always carefree in front of people, smiling and laughing. But when he was alone in the corner, he always looked solemn and tired. Countless times, Savin had wanted to talk to Kiro about his life, work, and feelings. But with just a few words, Kiro was always able to put him at ease. Then he would just drink booze and get wasted. He was supposed to be the person Kiro trusted the most, but that wasn't the case. The boy who he should have taken care of had always silently looked after him instead. Saven looked at the opposite building in the darkness. A huge ad featuring Kiro lit up the whole area surrounding it. He began to take comfort in the idea that perhaps, no matter who Kiro's agent was, Kiro would still thrive. Kiro was gone. Although Saven had expected such a result, when it finally happened, he still could not accept it. After announcing his retirement, Kiro vanished from this world. Saven thought this incident was inconceivable. A superstar like Kiro could not simply disappear like this. Someone would recognize him on the street, and there should always be some tabloid shots circulating on the internet. But he really disappeared without a trace. Saven suddenly had a sinking feeling, but he also believed that Kiro's charm should enable him to turn his bad luck around. The administrative staff had called him more than once, asking him to clear the warehouse, which was stuffed full of letters and gifts from Kiro's fans. But since Kiro had disappeared, there was nowhere to send them. Looking at the warehouse full of Kiro's fan mail, Saven sighed. Over the weekend, he stuffed the pile of fan mail into his car and drove to Kiro's apartment. He rang the doorbell, but no one answered. He hesitated, and then opened the door with the spare key Kiro had given him. The furniture layout remained the same as when he was last there. The tables and chairs were spotlessly clean, and a set of superhero stickers were neatly stuck on the refrigerator. He wondered if Kiro was still living there, but he was disappointed the moment he opened the refrigerator. For the first time, the double-door refrigerator was empty. It contained not even a can of cola. Saven took off his suit, rolled up his sleeves, and spent 2 hours going up and down the stairs more than 30 times before he managed to carry up all the fan mail from the car. He was so tired that he didn't have the strength to tidy up and just piled everything up in the living room. If Kiro could see this when he comes back, he would be too ecstatic to speak, and he would be unwrapping the gifts all night long. Thinking about this, Saven smiled at a framed photo of him and Kiro. He took out an amulet he bought a few days ago and hung it on the photo frame. Then he picked up his suit and left. Regardless of all else, what's important is that he's safe.